Welcome back to the Air Insights podcast. I'm here with my good buddy after a little bit of time, JP. What's up?
What up, man?
Dude, it's great to have you back in here. We were both doing a lot of things over the last couple of weeks, and I know there's a lot of product development for you that's going on. Also a lot of training and some experimentation that's going on out there. A little bit of the same for me. I had a product to launch, got that going this week, so I felt like I got a little bit more breathing room. And but I've been training a ton too. But tonight I really wanted to talk to you about the latest training that you've been doing, specifically in the world of Airsoft and USPSA, because while we've talked about these things a little bit before, the Airsoft thing has been, you've repped a lot lately.
Yeah.
And the USPSA thing was, you've done now a few times. And I wondered if maybe you had kind of an update for us on your takeaways from the USPSA, as well as talking about the benefits of Airsoft as it relates to civilian training, and, you know, what it can bring to the table, and maybe how you're kind of organizing your thoughts around where you might spend time going forward now on both of those things, alongside the typical firearms training that you're doing out there on the ranges most people would think of firearms training.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's quite a bit to organize, but the airsofting stuff, it's good, man. It's fun. It's valuable. I would say, depending on where you go, that could hinder your experience or help your experience. I think we already talked about this before, where if you have the right group of people, then you're going to get the right end result, right? If you have people that are just like, oh, let's go fucking shred. And I
think the people you surround yourself with have a large part to do with how successful you are, that is for sure.
Yeah, with everything. So I'm lucky enough that the group we have right now, like, we all train together in the gym, on the range, and Airsoft. And I'm one of the newest ones. Me and Justin are the newest ones in this group to Airsoft. The rest of them are all like Airsoft vets, right? So they're kind of like getting us in tune with everything. And, you know, what's great about this community, just like with USPSA, they make it easy to want to be there because it's a good time and the community is good, right? But in terms of like the gear and like the training value, just like USPSA and flat range, there's pros and cons, right? I guess we can start off with the fact that you're going to have to go to most airsoft ranges in California that I know of, indoor or outdoor, are going to be like, 50% people who just want to run around and just have a great time.
Okay.
And then maybe 50% that's like us, where we're like, dude, what do we do here? How do we get flanked? Like, who was covering that hallway? Do you know what I'm saying?
So let me ask you this. So, because you're sort of talking about the community that shows up to Airsoft, who are these people? So you just mentioned just kind of like you and the group that we train with, which is fairly serious about their training and always trying to extract some value from it outside of the fun factor.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing you say is can be other people there that are just there to dick off and have a great time, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you have two conflicting sort of wants or needs there, maybe coming into contact with one another, or how does that impact things? So I guess my question is like, who's there? What do you run into? What can I expect if I go out and Airsoft here?
There's going to be people who just go in there, maybe not that often, that they're just want to go in and shoot each other pretty much,
recreationally.
And then there's people who are like on Airsoft teams where they have like the colored jersey, like a whole helmet with like the spike mohawk, the LED lights shooting out of their barrels.
Really?
Yeah. Just a ton of weird shit like that. Like, one of them really annoyed Will. It was funny, actually. Cause we're going over like our strategy to like clear one side of like this warehouse, and this guy was like, dude, you just got to run around as fast as you can, and that's how you do good in Airsoft. And we're like, dude, we're not trying to do that. So that kind of paints a picture, right?
Okay.
That was one guy on our team, and I'm sure you're gonna run into that more and more. I went out a couple times with them and went to a couple stores with them. So I'd say after going to a couple Airsoft stores and a couple of 4.5 hour nights with them, that I have like a decent idea of what to expect here. But like I said, if I had to think about it really hard, I'd say it's 50-50 people who are thinking in the tactical space, and 50% people who are like speed softers, is what they call them, right?
Could you compare it to like paintball?
Yeah. Like the speed softers would be like competitive paintball.
Okay.
paintball, right? Where it's like, and almost like USPSA, right? It's all gas, no defense. It's all speed, right? Which is a good time, but it's not really tactically sound when real bullets are flying, right?
No, it's not.
Yeah. So, but I will say, even though tactics might be low IQ, even on the serious side of the teams, right? Because I think there's like about 40 or 50 people in like a warehouse that's like, I don't know, I'd have to say maybe like a 50,000 square foot warehouse, something like that. Even if there is like 50% of the field like is serious and they're not trying to speed soft, that doesn't mean their IQ level is like really high in terms of tactics, right? Because me and our group, we all have CQB knowledge or experience from different people, but we're trying to piece that together and communicate. You know what I mean? It's just like any team sport, dude. You get new people together and then like everybody has different opinions on what should happen. So it's even if
it's not like you're training together all the time, you show up and you've got different skill sets, different discourse or vernacular. People are thinking similar but differently. It's not flowing.
Yeah. And then there's different fitness levels, which is also another piece we'll get into with this. But yeah, so like, it's just hard. My point in saying that is even if half the field is very serious and they're all wearing Cry Precision pants and Faro Concepts plate carriers and they have real nods.
So they show up looking good.
Yeah. So they show up looking good, right? And they have the gear and some of these people we ran into, I actually had shot at a range with before with some of our buddies. And so they're regular airsofters and they're less on the range, but they use all their gear on the range.
Okay.
And I would say that like they're okay at shooting, but they're like good at airsofting. Like they were like whooping their ass airsofting, even though we were trying to like really try. Right. Anyway, I would say that because there's a lot of chaos with different mindsets going into this, you have to take that into account. Now I went to a place where it's basically anybody comes in this time slot, and this is everybody that comes in for these many sessions from,
it's like open gym. 12. It's like open gym.
It's like open gym. Right. And so even though everybody starts at the same time and everybody has different color armbands, red versus green or whatever, you still have like minds and teams doing way different things. Right. So it's kind of chaos. So like you're thinking, how could you seriously take this like seriously if there's actual like speed softers and then people that are serious and then there's like a ton of rules. Like if you actually turn the corner on somebody and you're within like 10 feet or something of that nature, you can just yell bang, bang. And they're like, all right, you got me. Cause I mean, I got a ton of welts now from airsofting. And like Bryant actually got like a nice scab on his cheek from it. So it definitely hurts. You have to respect it. But my point is things like that, like I guess you turn the corner and say bang, bang, but it's like, do you really want to build habits like that? Or you know what I mean? Like as much as one of our friends was being a dickhead and he was like, I'm going to go on the other team because like, I just feel like owning you guys, this is like one of the most avid airsoft guys in our group. Yeah. He fucked our whole team up in one of these scenarios, like in one of the matches. And I appreciate that he lit us up instead of saying bang, bang. He turned a corner and like lit up 5 of us instead of saying bang, bang. And I would rather appreciate that for training value and being like, fuck, that hurt, instead of being like bang, bang and like create that scar.
I just did this review on Raul Martinez's Rogue Methods close contact gunfighter course. And I think I ended that review with basically that piece of it, how important I felt that was to the experience, because it's a stark reality or a harsh reminder of what the reality again could be if that was a real situation. I think what it does is it wakes you up, right? There's the whole stress inoculation piece, but it wakes you up to, damn it. Like first off, that doesn't feel good. It hurts. Yeah. Right. So it's not going to kill you. It doesn't feel good. So there's a physical response to fucking up versus bang, bang. There's just disappointment. Yeah. You're just like, fuck, man. Okay. And then you go to your respawn corner. Cause there's this thing like respawns. It's like in video games. As soon as you're hit, right, you have to go back to your respawn corner. There's like a corner on each side of this massive warehouse that you just got to walk back and let everybody know, hey, I'm fucking dead. So it's like, that's another thing is it's on an honor system. So if you didn't like actually light somebody up, like with a very clear vision where they're like, they can't deny it, then people can scooch by. Yeah. Yeah. So like if there's any kind of distance there, or whatever. It depends on the group. Again, like the first day we went out, we didn't get like anybody who was being dishonest. The second time, dude, Bryant and Will got hella mad. It was hilarious, dude, because they kept lighting up this guy from like 20 yards and he just
he wouldn't
get
quote
out.
unquote die.
Yeah.
So they said, fuck it, let's go fully auto. And they just like went into this place and just unloaded on this guy. And I'm sure he didn't like it, but I mean, fuck, dude.
Payback's a bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But my point is there's things like that you can't control that are going to hinder how good the training value is with Airsoft. Right. So you're going to see little things here and there with that. But I will say that there is a lot of value. Like communication is so important. And because of Airsoft, I've been like, fuck, okay, I've been really slacking on my comms and like getting my radio set up and things like that. I actually sold my amps that I had with my OpsCore helmet. And now I'm like, fuck, should I buy another set of amps? You know what I mean? Because like, dude, communication is so important. And I knew that going into it, but man, it's like so it's a glaring hole if you don't have good communication. Okay. You can be like 10, 15 yards away from your teammate and you can be like staring and waving, but they can't hear you. So comms is like extremely important. And that's like one of the values that I would say I got from Airsoft, like right off the bat is like, dude, like having clear communication and like making sure that you're like leapfrogging your team forward instead of just like, hey, I'm fucking out this bitch. You know what I mean? So I'd say, yeah, like, I mean, there's a ton of things to think about with this whole situation and a lot to unpack, but, let's just say that if you're going to go to an uncontrolled event where it's just open gym, like you said, it's going to be chaos. And we just kept losing the second night that we went because we took it seriously the entire time. Yeah.
You were trying to stay organized and really that wasn't the best strategy.
It was chaos. Yeah. Yeah. And then like the first night it worked out a lot better for us, but the group was a smaller group size. So it was easier to know where people were heading and things like that. And so, like I would say with the group size and getting the most out of like Airsoft training, I definitely would say it's worth, we spent $35 to get in. It's worth spending like 50, 60, 70 as a group. If you know people to just rent the spot. Because if you rent the spot, get 10, 15 people, then you guys can break up the warehouse however you want. Yep. And everybody's going to take this very seriously. And then that creates a completely different environment instead of just chaos.
Got it.
Right. So, I mean, that was a big takeaway for me is communications and like controlling the chaos. You know what I mean? But gear is fun, man. Not going to lie.
Yeah. So before we get into the gear thing, just a quick question here. Like, let's talk about practical application of this. So, there's been a lot of things over the years. I mean, there's laser tag, there's paintball. Now there's Airsoft, which is basically the closest thing you get to force on force firearms training, as a civilian is anything. Mm-hmm. To my knowledge, you can't get simunitions unless you're in law enforcement and military. It's a little bit tougher to get those. Just like anything else, whether there's a will, there's a way, right? But they're very expensive, no matter what. Yep. And the reality there is you're probably not going to be using those. So just going back, you're working in these teams, right? And so you have several people there. How applicable is the team environment? We'll talk about tactics in a second. And because I've done a little bit of this myself, not in Airsoft, but otherwise, how applicable is the team environment in the civilian world? And when we're talking about Airsoft and we're talking about this coming together, like for the people out there that have questions about that, and there's certainly been a lot of bad mouthing about Airsoft and, from certain places in our community at large, about, you're LARPing, this is dumb, like stop trying to be like us. That us being SOF or, ex-operators of some kind or other 3-letter agencies, what have you. But what's the answer to that? Like, where do you stand on that with regard to the practical application of running teams through structures, clearing structures, and basically being both offensive and defensive?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd have to say that the only way, I think, not the only way, but probably the most realistic way I think a team environment would matter to a civilian realistically is if you care about being prepped, right? So one of two things happens. Either we go to war and civilians have to, be a part of it, or, the every 2A community ever has always thought zombie apocalypse.
Oh yeah.
you know, post-apocalyptic, even if it's not zombies, if it's like, you know, just the world just went to shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? So as civilians, if you don't get that training outside, and this is like, if you're into being prep, dude, it is what it is. This is a part of it. Right.
Yep.
So like learning communication and learning what this looks like and how easily it can fall apart if you don't train it. Right. So if you don't make this bond with people, if you don't make a common language with people in this space, then you're pretty much going to be shit out of luck if shit hits the fan. Right. And that comes down to kind of like the community building, which is kind of cool about our group, because like we learn how to talk to each other and work with each other with everything. Cause like I said, we work out together, shoot together, and now Airsoft, things like that. So, I know for me, I've always cared about being prepped even before I got into shooting. And one of the most common things I've always heard from the oldest YouTube videos a decade ago is like, your community matters, even if it's your neighbors.
Massive pillar in the whole the whole prep community.
Yeah. So if your community matters and you're not just a nomad, then learning how to work in a team environment is fucking hard, but like learning it's important. If you care about that. Now, the percentage of like the probability of that kind of stuff happening, who knows? I would say
low frequency, and as we'd say,
I would say it's like low probability, but also the world's fucking crazy. A lot of shit has happened the last few years that we're like, wait a second.
I've seen some shit that I really didn't expect to see. That is for sure.
No,
so I can get on board with that.
Yeah. Nowadays, I own it. If I'm like, look, I want to airsoft because I think it's going to help me with fucking the end of the world, then I just own it because I've seen some shit over the last few years now where I'm like, I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah. I don't think you're totally crazy for at least keeping that as even if it's a remote possibility, you can't say it isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, a cataclysmic event, you know, some court decision, some shit people see on TV. We've seen this can turn the world upside down.
Riots
in a very short period of time. I mean, already there's no shortage of crises, you know, out there that people are wanting to try to take advantage of. So I can get on board with that to some extent. And I agree with you, like it's probably a very low probability of that happening, but what's the value in practicing it? As you said, if it happens, you're ready. But then there's the other pieces I wanted to get to, which is the equipment piece, right? But also the skills that you build tactically, if you will, through like, let's just say through weapons manipulation, through, situational awareness, that you could be faced with in your own home. By yourself, right? Or out on the street or in the world or in your business or in your car or whatever. While we're not airsofting typically in cars, I do know that there are operations that happen and games that happen where there are vehicles. And
there's vehicles that are the spaces we go to. Right. I will say though, that I've had this conversation with Luis from Triple Feed, where him and me both agree that like, majority of the time our training for him and me as individuals should be single or 2-person CQB.
That makes sense.
And structured defense, as Raul Martinez would say it. And that's why like that's the one course he has that I haven't taken. And I'm like, motherfucker, come to fucking California. I really wanted
to go this month, but it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, same here. But things like that are important because I know he's like very like into what civilians, like that's what he does now, right? Is only what civilians would do. So that is something to think about. Like how often should you be training team stuff? It's like, and this comes back to like what I'm pretty much going to say about USPSA and Airsoft, where it's like, how often should you be training each of these things? Like the team environment. Yeah, it's fun. And like I said, there's value to it. And somebody who gives a shit about being prepped, yeah, definitely train it. But I actually would say too, that it's probably more applicable for you or me to be practicing 1 or 2-man CQB because it's just you and your partner and possibly a dog, a kid.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, like that's more of what we should be seeing for the civilian instructors. Right. And with Airsoft, we can definitely get that done. I've been really trying to find a spot for Raul to use because I want him to bring that here to California. That'd be really fucking cool. But as far as that portion, Airsoft can cover that. I just haven't been exposed to that type of training with Airsoft yet.
Yep. And again, there's a revenue piece to this. Like there's a business of Airsoft and teams. And like you said, people showing up and it's all inclusive, right? It's a very inclusive thing. You can come with the most amount of skill. You can come with the least amount of skill. Everybody's on the same playing field. Everybody's quote unquote having a good time.
And there's and that'll lead us into gear, but there's no marksmanship standard.
Nope.
Because pretty much once you start seeing those BBs fly after like 2 of them, you know where you're shooting. So you can just do some weird shit,
right.
You know what I mean? And start hitting people.
Right. It's slightly different, but
yeah.
But going back to the equipment, I mean, this is probably one of the coolest things about it. And we talked about this with Bryant, just in terms of their testing ground for the equipment that we can use, or that you can use. The same stuff crosses over into, let's say, I'm going to say real life, right? Versus, or potential real life versus airsoft. Everybody's running, full kit, and they're running basically every single item with the exception of the firearm, which is just basically a replica, same weight, takes batteries, right? It's a little bit different. Magazines are a little bit different, but at the same time, it's all very, very realistic and to scale in every possible, I guess, way that term means. And you're running, so while you're running a replica rifle, if you will, you're running all the same optics, you're running all the same sling, same light, same, infrared lasers, all that stuff would be what you'd have strapped onto your AR-15.
I think that might be the most valuable portion of all this for me personally, because I'm into like product development and stuff like that. Cause yeah, man, it's fucking awesome. Like there's a list of things that I've been wanting to run that I just haven't found the situation that I felt like it was appropriate. I'm weird. I feel fucking weird, almost like icky, if that's the word for fucking, if I wear anything more than a chest rig, dude, I don't like plate carriers unless I'm in the gym working out. I don't like plate carriers. I like the idea of Weight Vest Wednesday. I don't like wearing them on the range. So you'd never catch me in them. I have 4 of them. But like a buddy of mine sent me the whole Spiritus setup. That's why I remember you have the chest rig. So I have everything else to that, like the back panel and the whole plate carrier. And I'm supposed to be like running this thing and like testing it, but I just always feel fucking weird wearing a plate carrier. So anyways, in Airsoft, I was like, this is a perfect time because I'm getting shot at a lot. And also you run through a lot of AR mags. You run through a lot. So you're running through 4, 5, 6 mags, depending on.
So you're constantly indexing.
Yeah, dude. So you might be tack reloading. Dude, I had to check mags so many times, just like release, check the mag, okay, and then put it back in and then look and see like what my kit was doing.
Where are you? Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, it actually made a lot more sense to feel comfortable using a plate carrier in that scenario. So for me, Airsoft did that. That was awesome, dude. I love that I was able to wear that plate carrier and I felt like it was doing something for me. Like I kept shit in my back panel. You know what I mean? Like, hey, Bryant, come over here. I need something from my top pocket. You know what I mean? So like that was really cool. And you'll never catch me doing that on the range.
You wouldn't need to.
Yeah. I just never want to.
You wouldn't need to.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. I just never, and that's just how I am with pretty much everything is like, if I feel like there's not a need for it, I don't want to be over the top and do it. You know what I mean? So that was really cool. Also, I've never had to lasso, like using lasers, IR or Viz lasers. I've never had to lasso location, but like there's been times where my comms, because I'm using borrowed comms, I'm using their spare stuff. Yeah. And where my comm like died, like my radio just died. So I'm like, hey, and I like lasso above a building that they're at in the sky and they catch it. Like I've never had to do that before. And if it wasn't for Airsoft, I wouldn't have that experience where we fucking fucked up a building because I lassoed above the building.
That's cool. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Cool. I mean, it's an application that could, that you wouldn't get exposure to or have you wouldn't have any reason to apply that in any other circumstance.
Yeah, pretty much. If you're not like
unless the zombie apocalypse or World War III.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And again, product testing. I have a cloud defensive owl that I've never used. And I just was like, fuck it, dude. Like you do a lot of white light training inside. It's like a very dim, like street lights inside this huge warehouse. But like there's a lot of dim, dark areas, nooks and crannies, and it's all at nighttime. So white light matters a lot. And you pretty much should be engaging your white light anytime you're taking a shot past 10 yards, like in real life, because like it's really hard to figure out, is that your teammate?
Without nods.
Yeah, without nods. Right. Yeah. So we had nods. We weren't using them though. We were just using
enough light.
Yeah, we were using like Viz lasers and white light. Excuse me. So like in these scenarios, I was able to use like a cloud defensive light and a rifle light, and I've never used it because everybody's like, oh, it's too big, bulky and shit like that. And dude, that thing actually outperformed for the size of that warehouse. It's a large warehouse, very large, like Costco, pretty much like Costco. I'd say. For that size, I had zero issues with how far it threw. You do a lot of like barricade work, like with the rifle, because you're getting shot at. Like, people don't give a fuck. They're just like spraying and praying.
As you said, it could be the speed softers, right?
So you have to hug up against the wall, use cover. You got to slam that muzzle and that light into the side of a wall, a steel pillar, a wooden doorway, and get after it. And that light held up just fine, right? That was one of the better performing lights I've actually used, which is a huge surprise. Then again, it's like really heavy. That's why people don't like it, but it actually is like a really good light that I've come to find because of Airsoft. And my point in all that,
you would have discounted it otherwise.
I've had this fucking light and I never used it. My friend was using it this whole time, who doesn't even go shoot. He just was like, had it on his rifle.
Just put it on there.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody said he had to have one.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just like, well, mod lights have been taking a shit on me. I've been loving my Surefires, but I feel kind of weird going back in time and using like a old M600. So, and all of our friends are using the new Cloud Rain. So I was like, maybe the Owl is something, and like it serves a great purpose, but that's besides the point. If it wasn't for Airsoft, I wouldn't have those experiences where, like, if you look at my handguard and you look at my Owl after 2 nights of Airsoft, 2 different sessions, there's like wood and all weird shit chips all over it. And the lens is perfect. The body is all perfect. I had no weird situations with it. And like I said, the throw was great. So with kit, with lasers, with lights, it forces you to use all this unless you're like straight up out in the middle of the day, which we weren't. We always did like the night shoots, right? And I don't know where else you're going to be engaging your rifle light that often, especially moving and shooting.
No, like we're not going to do it on a range day.
Yeah, dude, we're leapfrogging. We're actually going across the street. We're like, all right, Bryant, look down. Okay, put suppressive fire. Okay, go. And then run across the street.
Yeah, and the reality of that is if you are on a range, it's all very choreographed. I mean, it's all planned. You know what you're doing before you do it.
Dude.
Right? I mean, that's just what it is, especially for the live fire. You have to, there's a safety concern.
Yeah.
Right?
It's scary.
But it's all very planned. Like, you know what's going to happen before it happens. Even if you're trying to plan for it not to, like, everybody knows what's going on out there versus this environment you're talking about is, again, it's chaos, or it could be.
It's fucking chaos. Yeah.
Right. So you're having to do it under stress. You're having to do it with not knowing what the outcome could be. Yeah. And, again, then you could get shot in the face, like you said.
Yeah, and it fucking hurts, dude. Actually, I want to say Nick chipped his tooth getting shot in the tooth.
Yeah, good.
So we have like fucking mouth guards, and some of us had face guards. I don't know. Most of us were doing like schmogs with like mouth guards. It's like fighting mouth guards, But yeah, like, dude, everything. Like my rifle I bought, $500. And this goes into gear. This is something to think about, right? $500 for a high quality BCM replica licensed AR-15. I'm running I just got a new Gunco riser on it. So I'm running that with a Vortex optic. I would love to run aim point, but $800 optic versus $150, so I'm getting to run that through the paces. I'm running, the normal BCM handguard and fucking hand stop that I would normally run, and everything's the same. You interchange the stock, the grips, all that shit. So, I mean, however you have your rifle is how you can have it. I'm running the new T-Rex sling. I've been only running Vickers tactical slings this whole time because I've had no issues with them.
We talked about that. Yeah.
So now I'm running the T-Rex, and that's cool. This is gear testing out without having to waste ammo, right? So we're talking about how we're like, hell yeah, dude, $350 ish for like 1,000 rounds at 9 versus out there it's 10,000 rounds of Airsoft for like $60.
Yeah. So you're getting a lot of reps, you're getting a lot of trigger time, and you're having fun doing it, right? You don't even have to think about it. For that much money, I'm not thinking about, do I want to jam another mag or not here?
Yeah, exactly.
Is this 1 liter reload 1, or are we just fucking going off?
Yeah. And also the one thing about Airsoft that I never get on the range, and I didn't realize it until I Airsofted, is that you need to retain your mags. Cause I did a speed reload. Yeah. I did a speed reload with a Glock 17 mag, $60 mag, dude. And I never got it back. And I was like, fuck. And now I have to order new $60 fucking mags. You know what I mean?
Hard lesson.
Yeah. But like on the range, you're like, okay, your range, your run is good. Okay. And go clean up your mags.
Okay, time out. Yeah. Time out.
Yeah.
Get a drink of water.
Out there, you go pick up mags, you get shot up. So the entire time you're just doing tack reloads.
So you're moving around. So you mentioned the fitness piece. Where does this fit in?
So it's weird. I say it's weird because your max deadlift doesn't fucking matter in this because you're not able to touch anybody. right?
Yeah, I would figure that unless you're doing that and you're doing that in a very violent,
exactly,
situation, it doesn't matter, period.
Yeah. So things like max deadlift don't matter. Running 5 to 10 miles, that type of cardio doesn't matter. But the real, like the big aerobic base, like making sure that you at least are able to, like, jog a mile, hike 10 miles, like that type of low intensity aerobic base, I noticed did help, and explosiveness helped, because you need to get the fuck out of Dodge if you're getting shot at, right? So those two things I think were the biggest factors. Obviously, in order to avoid back pain, you have to have strong abs because you're doing all this kit, ballistic helmet, nods, all that kind of shit, right?
Center of gravity is definitely off, yeah.
Yeah, so you're running around with this kind of shit. But I would say that, like, Billy, one of the guys that we airsoft with, I think he's like 140 pounds. He's jumping into windows, like your standard like window on a house. And I look, and I do explosive shit all the time, but I also didn't have knee pads. I'm wearing jeans because I like to keep it real. I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna not jump to that window because I've had enough knee issues. Yeah. So like climbing through windows, it's a thing. It's an obstacle that you should do if you're trying to breach a house the right way. If you have a team environment and you're like, okay, I'm going through the front, but it'd be nice if you fucking got in this window. So he gets far because he can jump through the window. Me, I'm always like hugging up on walls and shit because I don't want to hurt my knee.
Yeah, that's adaptation, man.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And to be honest, if I wanted to go ham again, I'd just bring the knee pads, dude. I'll just swallow my pride, even if it doesn't look cool. Cause dude, I'm not trying to hurt my fucking knees, But I would say all of us as a collective that have been training here at the gym, and not to sell the program or whatever, it's true.
It holds up.
Dude, yeah. We all are the same group of friends that hit the range together, but the ones that actually shoot here, they were like laughing about how much we were sweating, but also none of them were tired. None of them felt tired at all. We're just all sweating because we're moving around, but nobody felt tired. But there was one person that doesn't train with us here at the gym, that shoots with us often, that had vocalized. I don't know if he knew that I was hearing him because we're in a team environment. So we just kept covering each other, but he just kept saying, fuck, you guys go ahead. Like, I'll cover this. Like, I need a breath. I need a breather. You know what I mean? So like, it's not super high intensity. Changing directions and explosiveness matters here and there. I would say just a solid aerobic base, being able to cycle for 30 minutes or jog a mile, that type of thing. Is probably more useful, and like I said, for load bearing, probably having strong abs. Yeah,
well, the mind will go very quickly as soon as the body goes too.
Yeah,
right? I mean, your sense of self confidence, your ability to make decisions and good ones. At that, and then also a little bit of talking yourself into the next thing you might have to do, whether you're tired or not. If you physically break down, the mental's right behind it, generally speaking. So, but again, I'm not surprised by that, but it's interesting to hear your take on it, because 4 hours of anything is quite a long time.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're running around in there and you're constantly having to regroup and get back together and kind of get your shit together, you may have a few minutes, it sounds like, to catch your breath, but we
do like 15-minute intermissions between.
Right. But that's not a long time. It's enough to get a couple sips of water, maybe cram a bar down your throat and jump back in again.
It's just water and jamming mags.
Yeah.
Using the bathroom. That's all that is. And yeah, dude, there's a couple people I don't normally shoot with that ended up being friends of one of our friends that are pure airsofters. And I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, they completely just skipped like the last game, but they stayed to hang out. So it's not like they had to leave, but these people didn't seem like they were in good physical shape.
Got it.
So for me, I'm usually a really good judge of gauging like people's fitness level when we're in the gym.
Makes sense.
Out there, it was really hard to like see like where somebody would struggle outside of just having to move with like kit. And there was a couple guys where I'm 90% sure that probably like 3 guys that were just like not having it anymore in the last round because it just was a lot.
No gas left in the tank.
Yeah.
No gas left in the tank. So build the engine.
And honestly, build the engine, and it doesn't have to be super high intensity. Let's fucking go puke mode. It's just really just, if you're able to work out for 20, 25 minutes of like jogging, steady,
just low intensity aerobic activity is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can get that from weight training if you're organizing yourself correctly.
Yeah. If you do it the right way,
build
definitely.
that cardiovascular capacity if you're hitting the weights the right way, and you're staying at the right intensity levels. I mean, there's there's science that backs all this up.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a matter of how you organize your reps and your sets and your intensity levels. Obviously the volume over time and your ability to recover from that is important, but you can absolutely get into the cardiovascular system and definitely impact that, you know, that energy system, that aerobic energy system through your basic weight training. So if you don't have it, so there's no excuse, right? If you have time, you know, when people say I don't have time, even if you had 2 days a week, you get a ton of benefit from that.
Dude, our guys here that train 2 to 3 days a week, man, I don't know what they look like airsofting before training here with me, but like, dude, they look like fucking studs out there. I was like trying to figure out where their holes were before this because none of them look bad, tired, slow, none of that. We all sweat because we're all moving around in kit, but I mean,
yeah, sweat doesn't mean you're working hard.
No, dude.
I mean,
we were all chilling. Like we were all like very focused and like talking about what did we do wrong here? Like nobody was tired.
Yeah, sweat just means you have an effective cooling system.
Yeah.
Right? You know, or it can mean that. It can also mean you're painfully out of shape, you know, and your body's really overworked and overheated and all those things. But I hear what you're saying. So it's interesting. I haven't been, right? So I still haven't gone, and it's not because I don't want to. It's just, and I've explained to you guys, like I cannot put another thing on my plate right now. I can't add another thing. I've talked about this before on the podcast. Just, you know, a lot of times just need to take things off the plate, you know, to be productive and be healthier and be more productive and all of those things. Mm-hmm. So I just can't add it to the plate right now. It is something I want to do. I feel like I'm pretty much set up minus the guns, you know, in terms of equipment and whatever else. So I would definitely like to get out and run around and do it. But one of the other things you did and sort of revisited that I want to talk about, because you had some very sort of strong, but when I say strong, I just mean they were well-founded, their opinions on USPSA and how that, you know, kind of crosses over into your training and the skills and or the benefits, pros, cons. You outlined some of those things previously. And then we had Jake Hunter on, and he went down. We kind of got into a little bit more, and he did a really good job of articulating where he found value in it outside of just competing. But I wondered if you changed your opinion at all, or you know, for the good, for the bad, pro versus con on the USPSA stuff as it relates to how that translates into the being prepared for kind of those bad situations. Yeah.
Okay. So definitely you and me have made it like our goal to be civilians and find the best bang for your buck, training value. I mean, outside of the fact that you and me love doing this, like we're busy people, so we don't really have the most time to just be like every day, let's find a new form of training. So
again, going back to the taking things off the plate, you know, and off the plate, if I add extra, that means something else gets bumped off the plate. Like that's just the way it works. Yeah. And that's not always a good thing, whether that's family, whether that's my workouts, whether that's my downtime, my recovery time, whether it's work, something has to give. So I have to be careful. And this is to your point. I need to make sure when I do dedicate the time I plan for, and I dedicate the time, that I get the absolute most, I can extract the most value out of it on all levels. Like it's got to be a good time, right? Or I want it to be a good time. Like I have to walk away with new skills or new improvement in my skill or my fundamentals. I want to pick up new knowledge, and I always like the community aspect. Like I need to feel like I don't have to, but I really want to feel like I'm part of something bigger than me when we're out there doing it and everybody's doing the same. So those are the things that I want to get from a like a training evolution, or from a session, if you will.
But the thing is, what's crazy is that I would consider you and me like some of the busiest people, considering we're business owners and we're trying to be bigger than what we are. We're some of the busiest people that I know.
Always trying to grow.
Right. So like, think about that. We value this because we love this stuff. But think about the average person who doesn't have the same will that we have to make sure we hit the gym, to make sure we hit the range. You check those boxes weekly, right?
Yep.
Most people only have time for one hobby, whether it's for family or just the amount of energy output that they do. You know what I mean? So that's why I know you and me always agree that like, let's find the best bang for your buck for everybody. That's why we run Glock. It's not necessarily it's the best. It's just all around. It makes sense for a civilian who isn't trying to
makes sense for me. Yeah. You choose what you want. That one makes sense for me.
Exactly. I love
it's what's accessible to me. I live in California. I can get those things. Like there's all kinds of reasons that we've covered before.
Yeah, exactly. So with that being our goal here, my mind hasn't changed at all in USPSA. I went out there last week following two back-to-back weeks of airsofting on the weekends with our own private range day that was for night vision, pretty much night vision only. So there was a lot of low round count stuff to just do night vision drills because I'm still very new to night vision, even though like I'm getting it all down super fast. My point in saying that is I didn't really get a lot of shooting time, more so. You
didn't have a lot of reps.
Yeah. More so just like
figuring it out.
Yeah, exactly. So with that being said, over the last 3 weeks, shooting USPSA was my only real recoil management, fast, rapid shooting, fast target acquisition shooting I've done in like 3 weeks. And that maybe for your average person, that's like, oh, 3 weeks, that's pretty good. No, well, for me, I shoot, once a week and try to do something else to help that once a week on top of that. Right. So I did USPSA. Nothing has changed. Everybody's like, well, if you keep doing it, maybe it'll change. My first time out, I took 50th or something like that. I tried to use all my same habits. Don't fall into the USPSA trap where you're trying to go super hard so you can win, but you throw all your good habits out the window. Right. The second time I was like, look, we're having a great time. I'm here with my boys, and I go out there because not only do I sponsor fucking Jake, me and Gunco sponsor Jake, but not only that, but also like I enjoy genuinely the community and hanging around my friends. And this is what they love personally. You know what I mean? And it's like shooting guns. Why not? So that's the second time I went out and I ended up placing like 15-ish. I forget exactly, but I remember Zach was like, dude, you took like 15th. And I didn't even look. That's like how much I care about like the ranking.
The placing, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? This last time I took like 38th-ish. And I did what I did the first time. I didn't shoot fucking certain targets because all you're seeing is brown cardboard on the first stage. I didn't walk the stage. I walked up. We were already shut up late. They're like, it's your turn. I just walked up, shot. And at the very end of the stage, I sat there with my gun pointed down range. And I was like, I don't know if I shot that brown cardboard silhouette or not. And then I was like, I reholstered, unloaded everything, reholstered. And they're like, okay, if you're ready, this is your score. If you're done. And they're like, oh, you didn't shoot that target. I'm just thinking in my head, when in a real life scenario would I stare muzzle down range and be like, I don't know if I shot that.
Because you don't want to take a penalty.
Because I don't want to take a fucking penalty. Right. And that was how I started my day. And I was like, this is exactly.
That's a mind fuck. Yeah.
Yeah. This is exactly why I don't fucking like this. Now I went with Will because him and our group want to experience it outside of like, the guys that we train with here at the gym that only hit range day and airsoft with us, they want to start dabbling in USPSA because we're friends with Jake and Zach. And
it looks like fun, man. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a great time. Will went, dude, fucking stud, 11th or 12th place his first time. And he admitted I gamed it. Like he was like ahead of me in the other stages.
It's a game. So it's a game. If you're not doing that, you're not going to do well.
After that first stage, when he got it down, stage 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 or whatever, he was like, he went ahead of me and he'd be looking around, walking the stage and asking Zach or Jake for his advice on the stage. And he did really well. And shout out to him for fucking running my trigger and base plates that day just because he wanted to be my boy. You know what I mean? That was fucking cool. But he did that good his first fucking time USPSA. And I would say our group is all pretty close in skill when we just hit the flat range. Right. I mean, yeah, I'm the one that makes the flashy videos, but I'm not like, too proud to say that we're all around the same skill level. So like when I go out there, I expect that from Will. You know what I mean? That's not some surprise to me. No. You know what I mean?
He's a competitor. Right? Yeah. B, he's a very skilled shooter.
Yeah.
And C, he moves extraordinarily well.
Yeah, dude. He moves great. He fucking puts in the work. He dry fires. He fucking hits the regular range. You know what I mean? He airsofts. He's doing everything we talk about. You know what I mean? He lives it. So my point in saying that is that I went right off the bat and was like, this time around, I'm going to see if I can do better without gaming it. Just like walking up, looking around and then just shooting and not trying to do things. But dude, there was times where like I ran into like a stovepipe and I was using like Winchester white box. Those happen every once in a while. It's not my grip. I don't have a bitch grip. But anyways, so I had a stovepipe and I fucking cleared the malfunction. I wanted to drop to a knee, but the RSO was behind me with the timer. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to make this over the top because I kind of felt insecure. I felt like everybody in our group was going to be like, what the fuck? You dropped to a knee?
Well, you did that last time. You
did
that your first time out.
Yeah, I did that. Thing. Yeah, where they're just like shaming me. But
didn't you move behind cover too?
Yeah, I moved behind cover my first time.
You moved back behind the
behind the I reloaded behind cover.
On USPSA, everybody's like, what?
Yeah, and everybody's like, hey, JP, you could have went faster if you would have stayed outside the cover. But that's what I mean, man. Right. Like, it's a good time. And everybody's so inviting. The community's so great. But like in that scenario, I cleared the malfunction, shot, ran out of mag, reloaded, and then finished the course of fire.
Finished the drill, yeah.
I finished it, and then I even assessed the situation, not to be like a douchebag, but that's just the fucking habits I built. And then they walked up and they were like, hey man, that was really cool. You worked through the problem, but just know if you would have not shot after the malfunction, you actually would have shaved more time off your time, and it would have been better to just not shoot the very last target and save the 10 seconds or whatever to clear and then reload after running out of the mag. And I was like, that is a training scar. You guys thinking that, fuck it, I'm not going to finish the drill. This is my third time out, and that's just a new training scar that I could have picked up the third time again. And every single time I go out, there's things that I'm like, what the fuck?
Right.
So like, it is what it is, dude. Like, I don't feel any different. I did my due diligence. I did 3 of them. I'm with people I like being around. I'm having laughs. I'm running fucking both my Gunco guns, dude. And every time it's the same experience. So do I think there's value in USPSA? Everything's a cold standard for one, because you don't get to warm up.
Right.
Right. And there's not a whole lot of, like 3, 5, 6 shots. There's a lot of just double taps or singles, right? And yeah, there's weird shit that I don't really like. The last stage, they had 2 moving silhouettes, one that rotates and then one that gallops, right?
So it's just kind of like undulating down in front of you, like the old school, like if I was going to the county fair.
Yeah, it looks like a horse galloping.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
they used to have the horse races that you would shoot the...
Yeah, with the water.
Yeah, with the water.
So with this last stage, it was really fun. It was really cool. There's only 3 targets. You're supposed to draw from a box whenever you're ready. You draw from a box, you shoot steel at 10 yards. Once
you say draw from a box, what's sitting on the table?
So no, there's a
oh, gotcha. You're standing in the box.
You're standing inside of a PVC box.
Yep.
So the timer goes off, beep, you draw, you shoot a steel silhouette that's like maybe a foot wide, but it's like 3 feet tall. You shoot that. As soon as that thing tips over, it unlocks these 2 moving IPSC targets, right? And so everybody was like, you start at box A, then as soon as you shoot the steel, you run to box B. But the smart thing to do is to shoot the steel and then run to box B and shoot in between the cracks of these 2 barrels, and then slowly tip over on 1 foot falling out of the box to cheat the system and shoot that second target.
That's some John Wick shit.
It is. It's some movie theater shit. And so I want to say, and I could be wrong here, I had the fastest draw and shot on steel to knock the thing over out of our whole group. And I was shooting with like Jake and Zach and Will and everybody. I just draw, shot, pink. And I knew everything that was going on. And I said, look, I'm going to wait for a target to present itself. I'm not going to like game this.
And I'm going to hit it.
I waited for the target to present itself. I got 2 A's, and then I ran to the second box. The other one that was behind cover that was galloping, I got like an A and a D, which isn't great, but it's also a galloping fucking target. But everybody's like, man, if you just would have like leaned over and fell over to the side of the barrels on 1 foot while shooting, that would have been cool. I was like, well, for one, that's dangerous, right? Because you're leaning over and you actually are falling into a stride while shooting.
That's going to be relative, but I would agree with you. But in USPSA, this is very normal.
It's very normal, dude.
Yeah, this is what they're doing.
It's very normal.
It's a very controlled environment, despite the falling and leaning and being off balance and all those kind of things.
And so they're choosing that because it is indeed the faster route.
Gotcha.
But for me, I'm shooting the steel and then waiting for targets to present themselves from behind barrels.
Yeah, that's some John Wick shit, man. That's John Wick in the nightclub, shootout scene that goes on for 10 fucking minutes.
Yeah, straight up, where he's landing on his shoulder and shit like that. Yeah. So I guess my point in saying all that, and the reason why this is all relevant to our conversation about Airsoft, is because I've been going out and doing as much training as I can in each space. Because for one, USPSA is like a $10 to $20 entry to get in. So you're shooting 100 to 150 rounds, depending on the stage layout. Again, it's cheap, 9 mil. and you're getting training on like 6 stages. So a lot of speed and target acquisition.
A lot of trigger time.
But everybody who does the best, guess what? They sit there and they dry fire and walk the stage around and make, you know, vocal pew pew noises at the targets and shit like that. And there's nothing wrong with that if you want to be competitive. But I tell you what, with USPSA, I am competitive and I hate fucking losing, but I also don't want to create scars so I can pat myself on the back at the end of the day when I know I have no future in USPSA. Right?
I got it.
So again, Airsoft, $35 to get in, depending on your gear, how much you invest in gear, which gear was massive.
Yeah, it's a lot of gear.
That's a big investment. You're investing in your gear the same way you'd invest in real firearms. It's no cheaper. Well,
like I mentioned at the beginning, to my understanding and everything I know about this, right, and all the people I've talked to and everything I've seen, everything is exactly the same sans the actual guns. They're replica guns. Yeah,
they're replica guns. And like, yeah, you're spending like 70-80% of the real gun price. But I mean, then you're modding them. You're getting extra batteries, extra mags.
Yeah, that's the gun. That's not the optics. That's not any of that stuff. It's just the gun. So.
Yeah, dude. So like, fuck, I already have a few ARs. I don't need any more. And I had to fucking get a new sling for this Airsoft one, a new hand stop.
Yeah, but you had
optic.
Fun. You had fun and you did extract some value.
Yeah. Yeah. So something that's important to say with the airsoft piece here is that you work through gear issues, even in the chaos, you can still get a lot of value from being like, this is just a shit light, or this is just a shit optic, or this radio does not work very well. You get that from even the chaos indoor fucking crazy speed softer shit.
Yep.
But it's like I told these guys earlier in the gym, I'm totally okay going to those things periodically because I'm working at my issues out through gear, even if the tactics end up going on the back burner because all the chaos, working out all these issues with my gear. So at whenever the next Milsim event comes up, that's the big one that like T-Rex Arms and like Haley Strategic, that Milspec Mojo, all those big names, they're doing that, which is like, there's no limit on how powerful your rifle can be. Everybody's using legit D-balls, legit pecs. Everybody's using whatever they have on their rifle is exactly what they're putting on their kit, their rifle, all this stuff, right? And this is like multiple mile radius, multiple like air bases, warehouses. And that's what a lot of these guys do. I would say that is 100% where all the training value could be. I would say if you really needed to do Airsoft, that's where I'd spend my time, but you need to do your due diligence and do like
find the right ones.
Yeah. Find the right ones, but also do these little shit fucking ones that we've been doing where they're fun.
To figure a few things out.
You have to figure out your gear before you go out and camp out for 3 days
and have a
backpack.
Have a miserable time and make everybody around you miserable too because you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah.
And or shit fails. And now somebody has to clean up after you or tag along or loan you some shit or whatever else.
Yep.
So I'm going to go back to what I was saying before and what we sort of opened this up with in terms of where you've been putting some of your time and in terms of extracting value and also trying to get the most bang for your buck. And I just want to say it again. I have very little room on the plate to add extra things. Yeah. So going after hearing this, like I can definitely see if I had to make a call based on what I know not from experience, but just from a high level of research and conversation that I've had with people. USPSA is going to be the last thing I ever do unless and put on my plate right now, unless kind of moon, sun, and stars line up and it makes sense, like I'm going to be in the right place at the right time. It's just like, hey, this is a cool opportunity. I'm going to go do it right now.
Yeah.
Right? Versus Airsoft, where I could say, well, a bunch of gear that I don't really run very often because I really don't have occasion to do that. I have, and I've run it. I just haven't run it like you've explained with the same amount of reps. I am interested in, certainly I don't get a lot of reps with carbine and low light. I just, just white light training with carbine. I mean, I just don't. And so if I had an opportunity to go out on the range and do like 2-3 hours of white light training versus go to Airsoft with, basically same weapon, same setups, same everything else and run white light training there, I'd probably choose Airsoft.
Yeah.
Right. Because it would put me in situations that I could never get out on the range. There'd be a little physical to it. There'd be a little fun to it. There'd also be all these other things because I've done white light training with the carbine, right? Several times, but like if I had a choice, I would probably go do airsoft based on what I'm hearing you and others saying kind of in my own research. But it's going to have to be with the right group of people in the right situation. And I need to be set up properly to go, because I don't want to be like under equipped and not be able to extract the full amount of value that I could possibly get from it. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I'm lucky enough to have the community that we have where we all help each other out with stuff. I would probably not even like have an airsoft gun. Well, I always had an airsoft Glock because you can dry fire in your backyard with it. But I mean, like the AR and build that and things like that. I wouldn't have bought, like $700 worth of gear and considered getting amps again if it wasn't for airsoft. But also if I didn't have a group of people who were like, borrow this and see how this works and see how you like this. And they all took it just as serious. If I was just a person that didn't have any resources like that, dude, it'd be really hard to get an airsoft, because right off the bat, I see myself spending $2,000 to get the best experience out of airsoft. Right. And I'm sorry, dude, for me, I always think training value is the highest, but also I am somebody who develops products, and that's something I'm passionate about. Yeah, so like,
it makes sense for you twofold.
Yeah. So like your average person, I do think airsoft has a lot of value, but it might take a while to reach real quality value if you don't have the right people around you. Yeah. It is what it is. And it might be money. Because like I said, it's probably 80-90% of the same price of real firearm stuff. I mean, you can go China made replicas because airsoft shooting isn't going to be quite as rough on stuff. I don't even know if I could say that though. My owl is pretty. Yeah,
you were just saying you beat up your shit pretty good. Yeah. Just in the couple times you've been out.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I would say it's definitely worth it. There's a lot of value in it. And if you're willing to do airsoft, you have to bite the bullet. If time is the most valuable thing to you, and you're going to have to drop, $500 to $1,000 and be with the right people to really enjoy your experience, however often you go. And that leads me to how often you should be doing USPSA and airsoft. In my personal opinion, I had an experience. We went out to our buddy Josh's birthday range day out in Tatooine, our secret spot in the wilderness. Had a great time. Him and a lot of his friends that he brought out there were all airsofters. They all have that background. They do the MilSim experiences. Events. Yeah. The 3-day, 2-day weekend, you backpack, you ruck, you live out of your bag with your kid.
And these guys have been doing this for a while. Like I know who you're talking about, and I know where you're talking about and what you're talking about. Yeah. And they don't mess around. I mean,
they're very serious. These guys are always shooting cries and all that kind of stuff like that. But something to think about is there's still nothing that can replace recoil management, right? And I don't just mean like indoor shoot one bullet every second or two. I mean like true, shoot 3 as fast as possible, then shoot 5 as fast as possible, and then shoot 7 as fast as possible, while keeping acceptable accuracy. Like that's like recoil management. If we're talking like handguns and stuff like that, carbines are pretty easy to get past that. But yeah, like just being completely objective here. We went and had a range day. This is like maybe a month ago now. A bunch of us had a great time on the range, and Josh has come as far as, I think I've known him like 6 months. He's come really far in the 6 months that I've known him, to where, like I said, like that guy shoots like as good as any of us, but with doing mostly airsoft and USPSA over the last 3 weeks for me personally, and only doing NOD stuff as like my own training with the boys.
Do you feel like you lost a step?
My first stage on the USPSA, that the day we went to the USPSA, my first stage, outside of everything, like I was kind of confused on what I'm supposed to shoot. Like, yeah, dude, like the fucking compensated Glock 19, fucking the first 5 shots
jumping all over.
Yeah, they kind of felt like, oh shit. And I take pride in my grip, dude. I absolutely love like handgun shooting and like having a strong grip and things like that. And yeah, dude, my point in saying that is that like focusing so much on getting the airsoft stuff down and then spending a weekend doing USPSA, and then the NOD stuff was primarily carbines. Yeah, dude, like you can lose a step. And I haven't really let off the gas in the last year from shooting at all. So it took me like a stage to be like, oh shit, I got to actually like bear down.
We've talked about this with, we had a couple conversations. One was with Brian, B-Dub from Triple Feed, and we were talking about, hey, if you take 2 weeks off, how do you feel when you go out on the range? Yeah. It's like, yes, it's like riding a bike. You remember how to do it, but that doesn't mean you're doing it well.
Yeah.
So that was one of those examples. And I think everybody can relate to that. And, you know, again, if you don't have the opportunity, I think there's a conversation that we could go a little deeper in terms of how to organize your training program and that the holistic outlook to your training program to be prepped and still be a little bit competitive and stay accurate and fast and, you know, tactfully sound, if you will, and all those things. But we're talking about, like, if you take a couple of weeks off and you go out there on the range, God, you know, the first few takes a while to kind of, you know, shake the rust off.
Yeah.
Or knock the rust off, if you will. And we were also talking with Jake, and Jake was talking about using like this high end equipment, you know, they was using staccato versus, you know, the Glock is going to be firing, and that when you switch from one gun, the one gun makes it so easy for him, right? It's a race gun, right? It's built that way. Makes it so easy for him that he felt like he got lazy with things like his grip, the fundamentals. So when he switched over to whatever his daily carry might be,
stock M9.
Yeah, right.
Beretta.
Yeah, exactly. He found his accuracy was way off.
Yeah.
And this was a gun he was very accurate with previously, because it's the one he started with, right? Yeah. Just in, you know, in walking away from it, and again, choosing equipment. You're hearing, or you were talking about the recoil management piece and how important that is. And, you know, when a gun really goes bang versus when you're shooting, you know, plastic BBs.
Yeah.
Or you're using this highly tuned, compensated, counterweighted, you know, gas pedaled, you know, freak of nature. I always refer to it as like Boba Fett's gun. Yeah. I mean, the thing's freaking, some of the stuff they're shooting out there is crazy. Yeah. That's not every division. I get that. It's different. But the point of that is, you know, if you're putting it over into real life application or potential real life application, how much time do you spend in certain places? Because it could be taking away from your ability to get the job done if you had to, versus going out and having fun.
Yeah. And that's one of our big goals with everything that we're doing here. Right. So like I said, if you could fast track airsofting, if you're like, hey, I got a grand or two to spend on airsofting because I need to get the best bang for my buck with my time, not necessarily my money. Like I have the means to like make, you know, good kit for airsofting and find the right places. Milsim is 100%. I haven't experienced it yet. We're planning on doing like a practice run of what to expect in Milsim in the next like 2-3 weeks, and then actually do an event in the next like month or two. That's supposed to be where everybody really utilizes everything on their kit, their bag, and like survives literally for like a weekend, right? That would be where all the value is as a team. Comms, running your gear. The shit that we're doing at local airsofting places, that really lets you, it's 100% figuring out your gear. That's by far the best value. You can work on tactics and get better at tactics, but realize that there's going to be a lot of random shit, like the guy with LED lights at the end of his carbine, you know, turning a corner and being like, bang, bang. You know what I mean? Like, that's fucking weird, but okay. You know, so there's a lot of value in that, but it's going to take a lot more of your time to get through that. Right. And I'm not somebody who wants to spend a ton of money on airsoft. I'm already like $1,000 in the fucking hole. And luckily a lot of it translates to flat range gear. Yep. You know what I mean? So amps, I mean, if I end up getting another set of amps anytime soon, I'm going to end up using it with the fucking helmet and nods that, you know, Gunco provides. Right. You know, so anyway, do I think Scott, or your average civilian that needs to train once a week in any one of these areas, needs to spend a lot of time airsofting? No, I think maybe once a month. And that's really going in there with the purpose of you going with the right people and you have the right gear. Like, I need to know what this light is like, using it a lot, banging it up against wood door frames, shit like that. Because other than that, dude, it can be very frustrating taking this thing very seriously with a team with thousands of dollars a kit on. Some speed softer turns a corner and like mops every single one of you. You know what I mean?
I think I get it.
Yeah. And then like the USPSA thing, I actually, I don't see a lot of value. Almost all of our friends are like, dude, there's value. It's like, nah, everybody who likes it games it. Like, you have to be honest with yourself, dude. You know, like,
so I'm going to compare this to something, and I'll probably piss a lot of people off, but I compare it to powerlifting. Nobody needs to be powerlifting.
No.
The only reason you're powerlifting is to enter a powerlifting competition.
It's because you like the number.
Right.
And you like the training to get to the number.
Yeah. There's not a lot of utility in powerlifting. I'm not saying lifting heavy shit there isn't utility to that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the sport, the powerlifting, there isn't a lot of utility outside of powerlifting, right? So there's not a lot. Is there transference into other things? Yes, when done or programmed properly, right? So it's kind of the same thing.
There's a lot of thinking and organization and planning that has to go into things like USPSA and airsofting for it to translate very well to our flat range stuff or self-defense.
I think that's what I hear you saying. And you said the two most important things are making sure you're with the right people, number one, and your equipment matters.
Yeah, equipment definitely matters. Like you have to go in there like wanting to know how your light runs. And like my thumb, I always get this thing. I love X300s. This is exactly why I'm trying to like work on X300 stuff. But my thumbnail always splits at the seam when I use X300s in a training session. It just doesn't matter. It always happens every single time. And if it wasn't for low light training sessions and even airsoft, then I wouldn't fucking know that.
You wouldn't know.
You know? So in terms of spending your time, this whole thing is to be continued. I want to do like the Milsom West event, and then I'm hoping it blows my mind. Because I'm already very impressed with all the airsoft stuff, but I also know it's costing me a lot of money, even with all my friends helping me with different pieces of equipment. And I don't like that. It's not because I don't like spending money. It's just because I already have enough shit on my plate.
Again, you're shifting over into a whole new world.
Yeah.
Right? A whole new world.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody wants to be out there with shitty gear. So
nobody wants to be out there.
That's not you either. Like you want to be out there with stuff that works. You'll take the loaners and the hand-me-downs for a while, but you also know.
And that's one thing that
missing out.
I didn't really talk about a whole lot is there was a lot of gear stuff that's only for airsoft that was giving me issues that was actually hindering me from training. My glasses kept fogging over and over and over again. So like the best solution is if you do some cheese cutter drilling to your glasses, which loses structural integrity in the eye protection. But that's pretty much what our friends are doing here, right? And they're getting no fog, even with like the frog wipes, even with having space in between the sides of your eyes. But you also don't want to get hit by these things. If it can chip your tooth, you don't want to get fucking hit in the eye with it, right? One of our friends that has no issues uses actual paintball goggles and like the bottom half of the face guard, which completely covers. So he's protected. He's doing the right thing with the obscure helmet. He's doing the right thing, but he looks kind of fucking stupid that you wouldn't do that in real life, right? But also like, I'm not trying to go to the fucking dentist because of airsofting. So these are things that matter. Like like airsofting situations that are only specific to airsoft were happening and they were hindering some of my training, you know? So that's also something you have to think about too. You can have a shit situation if you don't go in there with the right glasses or mouth protection.
All things to think about. Again, there's a lot there. It's a whole other quote unquote sport. Yeah. Right. So you have to be equipped. I get that. So like I said, not for me right now, but in the future for sure. I mean, the Milsom stuff does sound fun. I'm not going to lie.
No,
who doesn't want to, first off, you get outside, you're outside for a couple of days, like you run around, it's physical. You get to hang out with your buddies. There's a camaraderie piece. There's the teamwork piece. There's everybody's out there for the same reason. There's competition. God, I mean, that sounds like a good time.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to do that. I think I'll love it, but, where's your time best spent?
Yeah, it's not there right now. I have other things going on.
So everybody for sure should be experiencing airsoft. I can't necessarily say the same thing for USPSA. I think if you have the right group of people, you can have a good time, but I wouldn't even throw that in the regular rotation unless you really wanted to be around certain people. The airsofting thing, I would say once every month or two as a gear check thing, unless you actually have everything you need all sorted out, then you can do the Milsim events. So like our buddies that we shot with that are all airsofters, they were like, we've gotten to the point now where we do flat range stuff and only go to Milsim events. And I was like, that sounds like where I want to be. Right. You know what I mean? But also those guys, they have work. They've done a lot of work, but they also have work to catch up to like me, Will, Bryant, you, some of us that have done enough of the flat range stuff to where our grip is good. Our marksmanship is good, even under a timer. You know what I mean? Like our target transitions, all that stuff is good. Our posture, because in USPSA, there's so much ducking in windows. People do these dumbass, like
you're kind of in
ducking stances. Yeah. And then in airsoft, no one even thinks about stance because there's zero recoil the entire time. So I have seen those guys go through their struggles, airsofting a shit ton with all this expensive ass gear, and then coming to shoot with us. And it's like, you want to cringe just a little bit when they're missing things at like 5-10 yards. You know what I mean? And that's not to shit on anybody. We're all literally trying to get better at all these things to get to where we want to be. And that's what's cool about our community that we have right now is we're all helping each other get to around the same goal.
Right.
But too much airsoft, you're going to lose that recoil control. I would still say that even though Jake is like, if it wasn't for USPSA, like I wouldn't have been able to shot fast under timers and got good. Like I personally spent my first 6 months shooting going into BLM land with me and a couple friends that were not better than me. I just watched T-Rex Arms videos and shit like that and did target acquisition, 1R1s, 2R2s. I still think that's the best way to go about training at least half the time. Like a bunch of us are going out this weekend to our spot in the desert to do a whole, like, you know, from lunchtime until, you know, early morning shoot. So we get daytime and low light because we feel like we've been doing so much tactics and airsoft and nods that we're like, fuck, dude, we need to actually just burn shit down a little bit. We need to go do some recoil management, some bear solutions, some fucking El Presidente, just random shit like that. Target acquisition, you know, shooting far left, far right, doing some mobile stuff where we're doing 10, 20, 30, 40 yards.
Yeah,
we have to go back to some of that stuff because focusing so much on gear and tactics over this last month, all of us feel like we need to like get back on that.
We lost a little step, or at least you need to test it.
Yeah, exactly. I know I need it. I know personally I need it. And I would say that most of the value is still doing that.
Gotcha.
As long as you go in with a plan. Luckily, our group likes planning shit. Like if you go in saying, I need to cover this drill, this drill, this drill, and I need to figure out if this works, this light works. That's usually how we end up going to the range. I think that's the best way to go about it. If you have access to a range like us.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to think about, and there's several takeaways for people to be thinking about. I mean, there certainly are for me now. I think after this conversation, for me, again, it's just solidified that, you know, USPSA, while I love watching my friends do it. I love seeing the videos that they're posting or whatever. It is entertaining for me. But again, unless the moon, sun, and stars kind of line themselves up, I'm probably not going to make the 2-hour drive on a Saturday to get there, spend the 4 or 5 hours, then the 2-hour drive back, because that's going to compromise probably some other training that I could be doing that I'm probably going to extract a little bit more value from. Sorry, Jake. It's just, that's just where I am right now. It's not going to be forever, but it is for now. As far as the airsoft thing, it's definitely something I want to explore, but it's not in my top 2 like priorities right now. I have a couple other things that I need to handle. One of those is continue to wrap up my fitness program. There's some things I'm doing, trying to sort of recalibrate from a health and fitness perspective. And I think above shooting every time, that's going to be most important for me, because if I'm a liability to my family, to my team, to myself, then it doesn't matter how well I shoot or, you know, what my tactics might be like or anything else.
Mindset and fitness are definitely number one.
1,000%. And I get so much value out of that. And it always translates over to the range, but while still keeping the range schedule that I've been having, which is generally it's about 3 times a month, you know, out on the range, sometimes a weekend or so. And that's kind of how to organize myself. So, but I could see myself planning for and trying to, you know, if the situation was right, people can help me out with some equipment or whatever, getting into this airsoft stuff.
I would say for you personally, like having all of us help you set up whatever we think you personally need. And then you just going out like once every 2 months to just to test the fucking gear, move around. That's really all you need.
That's what's in my head right now. It's like I could reasonably put something on the calendar for next month or later this month to get out and do that and feel good about doing it. So, and that's a big thing, not just like, well, I said I was going to do the USPSA thing, so I have to kind of fulfill this commitment. I just don't feel that. I don't feel that strongly about it. So.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure for you, it's the same way, but dude, like ultimately I still enjoy like hitting the gym with these guys just as much as I love hitting the range. And I would prioritize hitting the gym before USPSA or Airsoft or whatever else we plan to do. Like I've been trying to make more time for fighting stuff. But I mean, even then, like you have to think about injury and shit like that. So it's hard. So my top 2 is still going to be like organized flat range stuff and fitness.
Yeah. Focused training time in the gym or outside, whatever. It's the same for me. I mean, you've already heard my story about why the fight game for me is not what it used to be. You know, it's just because my body isn't as healthy as it used to be, and it can knock me down. So I need to think about that when I'm putting myself out there in these situations too. you know, what am I doing to potentially take myself out of the game by trying to get into the game? So all things to think about. I love what you brought to the table, and I've seen the excitement and kind of, you know, we've talked, you've shared a few things with me along the way, and I see the guys getting super fired up about it when you guys do talk about it, and it's intrigued me, and that's why I wanted to talk about it tonight. And okay, it's fun, you're having a good time with it, you're dedicated a lot of time and obviously finance to it now. What's the takeaway for here? But I think the last thing you said there, which is this is to be continued. There's still a lot of as much as you're taking away now, and you've kind of got this opinion at this point. I think that's one of the things that you and I both value about one another's opinions is they could change, you know, because we're going to continue to try to apply, you know, ourselves to these different situations, and we'll take away what we can and whatnot. So I'm anxious to be part of that to be continued piece at some point. So we got to get some stuff on the calendar. But thanks, brother, for your time tonight. Like I said, it's always good to connect with you, and I hope people took away, you know, maybe a little knowledge that they didn't have. Maybe, you know, maybe people are, you know, this flies in the face of what some people feel really strongly about. I don't know, but I know for me it was helpful, and I hope it was for other people. So thanks again for your time, dude.
Yeah, dude, it was a good time.
Cheers.